Dorton and Doetkott Debate Podcast. I am Lucas Dorton. I am joined by my co-host Nicholas Doetkott, and we have a new guest today, Sam Steer. Sam, how's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. We're quarantined to the house now, so we're enjoying every minute of the family time now. So
That's right. That's right. Nick, you quarantined over there?
I'm quarantined with my jawbreakers and I got all sorts of candy and pop, so I'm good.
You're set for a couple weeks, then it sounds like. Awesome. Oh, we have a guest, folks. We have a guest visitor here.
Yeah, this would be Blakely. This is my first daughter, Blakely. The other one, Everly, is upstairs she's napping, but her birthday's tomorrow. This one's birthday's in a couple weeks. So
okay.
You say hi.
Happy early birthday.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. So yes, this is a special edition episode. Today, we are mainly and only going to be talking about Major League Baseball, kind of doing a preview of the season, making some award predictions, some playoff predictions, talking about other topics as well too. And as far as, the baseball season goes, we're not quite sure when it's going to start. It could be in a couple weeks, it could be in June. Who knows? So hopefully it doesn't take that long, but nonetheless, we're bringing you some baseball content because baseball is number one. So
yes, it is.
So we will get right into it here. So we'll get into some big topics, starting with the DH rule. So obviously, right now, DH is in the American League, not in the National League. There is talks potentially that at some point maybe the DH makes its way over to the National League. So, Sam, I'll start with you on this. What is your take on the DH? Do you think it should be in all leagues, or are you okay with it kind of being separated? What's your take on that?
Well, I'll put it this way. Imagine playing high school baseball and having two conferences with different rules.
Sure.
How do you set up your postseason so that both schools are playing in a fair system? We've lived with it forever.
Right.
We've lived with one league having a DH and the other league not. So not changing it would not be a big deal, but it's going to get to the point where it's going to be changed, and we're just going to have to accept it. So I'm actually for the DH in the NL, and I used to be against it. The reason I'm for it is because pitchers don't train to hit.
Yeah. So are you American League guy? Are you a Twins guy then?
I am a Twins guy. I love the old school ball of the National League, but
sure.
The way things are going and the way things are moving, and with sabermetrics being a huge part of how teams build themselves now, I think it's only I'd have to boomer myself if I'm not going to accept the NL with the DH. So
yeah, I feel that for a while I was. And Nick, obviously, we've debated this too, and I'm a National League guy. My team's the Colorado Rockies, but for a while, and even I debated on here that the DH, I do not want the DH in the National League, and I was pretty dead set on that. But recently, I've been more just thinking about it, and it's like, I would as much as I love the strategy, as much as I love, I guess the thinking part of it and the National League goes, it just makes more sense to have 9 hitters in there. And I've kind of more adopted and changed that route. Nick, I kind of know your take, but what do you have to say about it?
Well, like what Sam said, the pitchers don't train to hit. And that's my thing. We're watching Major League Baseball. It's the best of the best. I don't want to see a pitcher go up there and strike out on 3 pitches. And I'm not saying they do every time. But, we're paying to watch pitchers pitch and batters bat. I'm not paying to watch a pitcher hit, They don't make the majors because they were a good hitter. They make it because they were a good pitcher. And I feel like that's why there should be a DH. I know there used to not be one in either league, but you know what? The AL decided to adopt one, and now I think it's time for the NL too as well. Well, I know, like, my brother, for instance, doesn't think there should be a DH in either league. But, I mean, the main thing, like what Sam also said, it's kind of weird having 2 completely different things. The West and the East in hockey, basketball are the same. The NFC and the AFC are the same in football, I don't know why the NL and the AL think it's, I don't know, so cool to be different. But come playoff time, it's just like all of a sudden you have to play a different way that you've been playing the whole regular season. Game 3 of the World Series, you go to the National League Park, and all of a sudden you don't have a pitch, your pitch has to hit. I just don't like it.
Well, and the caveat I think I would add to it is that if you do happen to have a Babe Ruth or a Shohei, they can hit when they pitch. If
Yeah.
if the manager chooses that they don't want to use the DH, they can choose to not use the DH. So I think having a DH in both leagues also adds some strategy because what if they went to pitcher DH at the major league level? I mean,
Yeah.
not that you would want to use that. You don't want Justin Verlander hitting in the ninth and not pitching in the ninth, but
Yeah.
but you get the point. Is let's give more flexibility to lineups.
Yeah, that's a good. I agree with that. Especially for for the Rockies, especially. Charlie Blackmon, love him. A favorite player. He is amongst Major League Baseball fans and stuff too. Hitting wise, great, but his defense these last few years have lacked. So I think I would much rather have Charlie Blackmon hitting in the DH role and then throw another outfielder out there that hasn't lost a step or two. So I guess at one point I was a little bit of a boomer with that, but I've kind of adopted now. I think I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Well, and you know what else it does? It also creates more positions for minor league players that have specific skills that we're not going to see unless they figure out how to do something else. So, and I also, baseball purist in me likes that a guy has to play defense, but in the long run, I think DH is the way to go in both leagues.
Yeah. And now that you guys bring up the defense, I don't think it's like a huge deal, obviously. But for instance, a guy like David Ortiz or Nelson Cruz, they're not even going to look to go to a National League team anymore because all they do is DH. So it just completely eliminates your chance of getting a Nelson Cruz if you're a National League team. And, that would kind of suck as a general manager,
Yeah.
That's a good point. If they have a DH, you wouldn't have that problem.
That's a good point.
Blakely agrees with you.
Well, hey, there we go. Got everyone agreeing on the same topic. That's good. Sweet. So bunting, I guess that can be the next rule, or I guess not really a rule. The next thing that we go into. This is the topic that Mr. Doetkott wanted to bring up. So bunting, obviously. No, Nick, we got another ESPN update. What's happening now?
No, I just don't even know how to turn them down. Oh, well.
But anyways, bunting, that's what we're going to be talking about now, Nick. So we'll start with you since this is kind of the topic that you wanted to bring up. I'll just kind of let you take your course however you wanted to go with that, I guess.
Now, personally, I definitely want to hear Sam's take on this because we both play town team baseball, which, it's still baseball, but it's much different because obviously we're not as good as professionals. Now, professionals, they don't bunt as much as they used to. They still sack bunt, but not nearly as much as they used to because sabermetrics and whatnot. And a lot of times they say you shouldn't bunt, and some teams are totally against it. I know, like the Cleveland Indians still do it all the time, and I know this is already like almost 20 years ago. But if you watch the movie Moneyball with Billy Beane, that was the 2001 season. There's a clip of him saying, "I don't want you bunting," and guys are like, "That's what you pay me to do." He's like, "No, I pay you to get on base." Anyways, me personally, I'm against sacrifice bunting guys to second. I love sacrifice bunting guys to third, but not to second, unless it's like a pitcher hitting. Because the way I look at it, okay, let's just say there's a guy on first, no outs, right? You bunt him to second. He's in scoring position with 1 out. That's great, but you're still going to need a hit to drive him in, right? Say you hit a fly ball to center that may deep enough that maybe gets him to third, but then he's at third with 2 outs. So you're still going to need a hit to get him in. Whereas if you steal second, bunt him to third, then he's at third with 1 out. You don't even need a hit to drive him in. You just need a sacrifice fly or something like that. And if you can't steal second base, then you might as well just swing away with that guy, not bunt. But my thing is, in baseball, you should never assume a hit because even the greatest of the hitters don't bat 500. So I just don't like bunting a guy to second. You give up an out, and then you still essentially need a hit to drive him in.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The point I don't really agree with, though, is just have a player steal second base. Well, unfortunately, not every player is Ricky Henderson out there. They just can't steal bases out well. So you have to have that. And I'm not saying you need to make it a 100% part of your offense. If you have a guy like D. Gordon at the top of your lineup at first base, by all means, have him steal second and then try and bunt him over to third. But if you got a guy like, I don't know, he doesn't play anymore, but Prince Fielder at first base, I don't know why, you need to bat Prince Fielder over because he'd probably be the guy after him. He'd hit him fourth or fifth. But anyways, just for argument's sake, bunt him over. Well, Prince Fielder isn't going to be able to steal second base. So now you have a runner at second base and, a base hit. not all hits are screamers like, diamond cutters right at the middle. So, every once in a while a ball slows up a little bit. That Prince fielder might have a chance to score still. I see what you're saying, though.
I feel like if you can't steal second, then just don't steal second, but don't bunt either. I am not for giving up an out to only get a guy to second base, because you're still going to need a hit to drive him in. So why not just hope that first guy who you have bunt gets a hit, then you have first and third, no out, no issue. I just personally, unless it's a pitcher batting, do not think you should bunt to second.
Sam, what's your take on this?
I'll give you an example from last year in the state tournament.
Right.
Riley Schultz walk-off home run against St. Benedict. We had, I think, like 4 hits in the game, and got a guy on first base on a walk. And instead of Riley bunting, he swung away, hit a home run, walked the game off. Now, is that going to happen every single game? No. But that would actually be a situation where I typically would have maybe thought about bunting a guy to second base, because you have 9 top coming up.
Right.
Well, you have 9 bunting, and then you have top coming up behind it. So you have 2 chances with your 1 and your 2 hitter to score them. I think it depends on how you set up your lineup and what kind of hitters you have. So to me, I have to agree with Nick. I don't think there's many situations where bunting a guy to second base really gives you what you're trying to get out of it. The one thing is, if you are going to bunt, it needs to be bunting to kill zones and bunting for hits. So you're trying to bunt in spots in places where it's not a sacrifice. You shouldn't have a sacrifice mentality if you're bunting a guy to second. It should be about adding in. Now, bunting, one of my favorite times to bunt is actually first and third with less than 2 outs.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Down the first baseline, because worst case scenario is your first and third with another out. Yeah, or, and it's a safety squeeze, not a suicide. So your runner on third's not just breaking for the plate.
Right.
I actually like that, because if it works perfectly, for instance, on a safety squeeze, well, then you score the run. A lot of times they're scrambling. Who knows if they even get you out at first? But even if they do, that third baseman's coming up, and especially like in town ball where guys, don't always do what they're supposed to. If that shortstop doesn't cover third, that guy from first can go all the way to third on it. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then it also sets you up to fake bunt steal in that situation, either later or earlier in the game, because now the shortstop has to cover third, because you've just done this to them where they got an extra base because of the guy from first advancing to third. So now if you go fake bunt steal, that shortstop's covering third, second baseman's got to make a decision to cut the ball or be on the base, and you have to throw through. So you just put pressure on the defense in that way, and it's really about being aggressive with the defense. But ultimately, in baseball, if you can swing the bat, you're gonna have better chances of scoring runs. So
I agree.
So putting the ball on the ground for a bunt without the intent of it being for a hit doesn't add pressure to the defense. If the defense can, in most adult leagues, Major League Baseball for sure, when they can play catch 95% of the time, it doesn't give you your desired outcome. The purpose of a bunt is to create free bases, and one thing I've heard people say is they want to sacrifice bunt in order to get out of a double play situation. If I'm the opposing coach, I'm just walking your next hitter.
Yeah, right.
So, if that's the goal, I can see that. I'll just walk it. And if I'm going to bunt my 2 hitter to get to my best hitter in a 3, if this is a different discussion, but if my best hitter is my 3 hitter, and I wanted to use my 2 hitter as a bunter, this is what I would not do. But then I'm putting my 2 hitter in a position where everybody knows he's going to bunt, and my 3 hitter is going to get walked because everybody knows he's my best hitter. So unless I can protect him, that's why I think your best hitter goes to, not necessarily for our team, like for the Indians, because it's about what your skill set is. But I think a lot of times some of your better hitters are your 2 hitters, not a bunter, is what I should say. Your 2 hitters, not a bunter.
Right.
But he needs to be able to.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
And agreed. And even if you are sack bunting, which, like I said, just second, I'm against that. But even if you are going to do it, I agree with you. You have to at least attempt to get a good bunt where you could potentially beat it out. You're not just simply bunting to get the guy to second. You should still be trying to get to first also. And bunting for a hit in general, now that's completely different. I personally would do it all the time. I just suck at drag bunting, and it should be easy. I'm just not good at it. But drag bunting is a completely different discussion. I'm all for that. But
Nick, when everyone has power like you don't need a bunt.
Yeah, funny.
Well, I'll give you a secret, Nick. If you're bunting down the wrong baseline.
Well, and okay, personally, I tell people the best drag bunt in baseball is in between first, second, and pitcher, no man's land. I just
Mhm.
like I've never in my life tried to do it. That's what you're saying, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I've just like never even really tried to do it. I don't want to be the guy who just bunts it straight back to the pitcher and look like an idiot. I gotta get good at it, but all I want to do is get to first base to steal, but I can't get to first bunting because I'm just not good at it, and it's frustrating. It shouldn't be hard.
Well, work on it in first and third situations. It becomes a lot easier.
True.
Because then you just have to get it down. And you can get it. You can work on get it in the right spot versus trying to run out of the box while you're doing it.
But so another scenario, I had said I'm fine with sack bunting to third. So I have a scenario here. Let's just say it's the bottom of the ninth. You need 1 run to win. If you have a guy on second, no outs. I mean, let's just say it's like your 6 hitter up the bat. You just swinging away 3 times in a row, or are you going to bunt him to third so you have a guy on third with 1 out? Or are you just going to have that guy swing away with a guy in second and no outs? What will you guys do?
You want to go first?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Sam.
Okay. I would say it depends on the hitter. So, if we're talking 6 hitter, typically there's no real dead spot in the lineup if you have your lineup constructed correctly and with the right skill sets and with the people you have. So, really depends on the skill set that you have out of that hitter. Let's say it's a contact average guy in the 6th spot. In that case, I'm probably trusting his contact and average to be something where he can place a bunt correctly on the right side of the infield. So then I'd go for it. If we're talking it's a swing and miss power guy, I'm probably going to rely on his power and hope that he drives a gap. Now that could be different for everybody, and I might change that philosophy in game. But when it comes to I like the idea of bunting a guy to third in that situation because you're giving the next 2 guys a chance to score him from third. But really, you're only gaining an advantage for 1 out. So I think typically I would just swing away there. But there are situations where I might sack the guy to third.
I would agree. Yeah. No, I would agree. I mean, especially MLB The Show. Obviously, MLB The Show is not the same as, playing actual baseball. But I do that all the time. Have a runner at second late in the game, no outs. I'm always trying to move him over. Except if I had no one or not, he's gonna hit a 2-run jack anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, the one issue though is that if you bunt him over and he's on third, your next hitter has to be the one to drive him in, or else you didn't change the situation.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing as, in some ways, as bunting the guy to second. And if you look at it that way, so I think it really depends on the situation.
Yeah, and I agree. And like I said, I think I would be okay with no sack bunting at all. A guy on second, no out, just try to just swing away. One of your 3 guys should be able to get a hit. If they can't, there's a good chance they'll end up scoring him anyways. But I do understand bunting him to third because then 1 out, all you need is a sack fly to score him, right? I'm just my whole thing is never assume a guy is going to get a hit. And if you're bunting a guy to second, you still are probably going to need a hit to drive him in. And I just don't get the philosophy of why people bunt to first so often. I don't understand it. And then town team, I know you probably haven't seen much town team, Dorton. I don't know if you even have them.
Nah,
there's so much coaches who just bunt. It's really irritating. And I specifically tell my coach, I'm like, if you give somebody a bunt sign when I'm on first base, I'm stealing because there is nobody bunting me to second base. I won't allow it. I will not allow it.
That's funny.
Nick taking matters into his own hands.
I'm like,
someone's got it.
I'm not saying I never get out stealing. Against Waterville, actually, I should have been. I think, Sam, you're the one who tagged me, right?
Yeah, I did.
Maybe that was against Gaylord. I got called safe, but I really slid into the guy's foot. I should have been out, but didn't see
it was my foot.
Yeah. I slid into his foot, called me safe.
It's all right. It's all right. Human error on the umpires. I like the human element of amateur baseball. So
yeah, see, we talked about that a while back too with the robot umps and our take.
Yeah, that's
on
a good.
That. I think
that's another good topic. Yeah, we can just talk about that.
What's your take on that, Sam?
I think you either have to go all the way or not, or none of it. That's simple as that. So either the strike zone has to be a robotic strike zone, and then in that case, the umpire is just a relay guy. Which at the major league level, I understand why this is people's money. This is money and people's really livelihoods. I just hope it doesn't. There's already a mistrust of officials that there shouldn't be, and I think we need to give our officials a little bit more credit.
Yeah.
Because they do a good job with.
That's
They
tough.
do a really good job with managing adults. So I'm going to go ahead and take the human route because I want those people to continue to have jobs.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, granted, the Twins haven't been in the World Series for how long, but let's just say the Twins make the World Series this year, and Game 7, there's just a terrible no call that doesn't go their way, and it's a World Series maker. It would really suck. But at the end of the day, that's unlikely. And human error is just part of the game. Sure, it sucks sometimes, but it's just part of the game. So I personally,
and it's fun to talk about.
Not going to robot arms.
Yeah.
Oh, and
it's fun to talk about.
Also, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if you look at the definition of the strike zone, it's like the knees to the armpits, correct?
Yes.
In Major League Baseball, it is not called that way. They do not call that pitch it's like the belly button, and that's about as high as they go in Major League Baseball for the strike. So if they're gonna have robot arms, they really have to tell them what is the strike zone, because nobody swings at that pitch at the chest, and because it's never called in the Major League.
Yeah. And the thing is too is if you really want to go that route, then you're taking a whole skill set out of the game for catchers. I enjoy that part of it. I enjoy that skill set.
You're talking like pitch framing and whatnot, right?
Pitch framing, yeah. And people would argue that, whatever. But
some people think it's a huge deal. I mean, personally, I think if you've got a really good umpire, it don't matter too much. But yeah, I mean, like they always said, Jason Castro is such a good pitch framer and whatnot. Yeah, it is an element of the game, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I'd say the other side of it to think about too is the strike is actually when it crosses the batter's crosses the batter, not where the catcher catches it.
Right.
And I think we have to understand some of that earning the corners and stuff too. I just like the human element of baseball and that the officials and the players are kind of working and gaming together to figure it out. But I do understand people's frustration with it. But I would rather that situation seventh game of the World Series and call gets made wrong. Well, we can talk about it for years then.
Yeah.
True. Plus,
that's what could have been. I mean, look at the Dodgers right now.
True. Yeah. And I know, Dorton, you mentioned it when we originally brought this up. Like the robot umpires were getting it wrong too. You said, right? Like they weren't.
Yeah, I think there was some minor league games where I think they hit to the shin and they called it a strike and a player just went off. What the heck?
Yeah. Minor league game. A manager got
with a robot, right? It's like.
Yeah.
You can't argue with the ump. He's like, well, I didn't make the call. The robot made the call.
Right.
Yeah, I think you got to allow the human component. That's what makes the game the game.
Yeah. There's another topic. Yeah, we can move on from that. Mic'd up players. It's something that's really talked about. Personally, I think it's fine when you're playing in games that don't mean as much, like spring training, like the All-Star game. When players are a little more loose, that they're going to open up a little more. If you're playing a game in September and, Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo are out there and they're battling for a playoff spot, are they going to be talking to you, telling you everything, being funny, joking around? Well, probably not, and they probably don't want to either. So in situations where it's okay, where it doesn't matter as much, I'm for it. And don't get me wrong, I think it would be amazing to have every single player mic'd up. I think that would be super cool. But the reality of it is you're not going to get those same reactions, in the middle of July versus when you are right now, not right now anymore, with when spring training was being played during that. Sam, I'll start with you on that one. What's your take on that?
I would actually just love to hear have the home plate out mic'd up, and we can hear what's going on between the batter, the umpire, and the catcher.
That's a good point. I agree with that. I think
that's the only place where it really makes sense. And obviously, it needs to be done in retrospect. Not they shouldn't be doing it live, because some of those conversations might not be television appropriate. But with that being said, if they know they're being recorded, it might also hamper down on some of the crybaby stuff that we see in the box. So I would have to say I'm for the mic'd up. I think it's really cool to see what players are thinking and how they're approaching the game and their mental aspect during the game, because that's really where that's really where the next level stuff comes for high school guys going to college and college guys looking to go to another level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just another piece of insight. But and then for the fan, the casual fan, I think it makes it more interesting and it gives you a little bit more idea of the chess match that's going on. With that said, I don't think baseball needs it. I think it's just something cool to add on. And so something good for the All-Star game and spring training, like you said, but I don't think it's necessary to be doing it outside of the home plate area for regular season games or playoff games.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned the umpire thing too, because that was another thing I wanted to bring up. I think that would be. I mean, how many times have you gone to a game where a play is being reviewed and you're up in the third deck trying to look all the way down to see what the umpire's call is? I think if they had a mic, that'd make it that'd be super cool. Nick?
Well, for instance, I mean, I know it's the XFL I'm quoting here, but like the little bit I watched the XFL, a guy will throw an interception, they'll talk to the quarterback about it 10 seconds later, or there'll be is it a fumble? Is it an incomplete pass? And they'll go up to the review booth, and you can hear exactly what the guy's saying. And it's just kind of nice because why they made the decision they made, and what led them to that. It's kind of cool. And like mic'd up basically, like All-Star game when they do it, it's really cool, and I'd be all for it. As long as the player's for it, I'm for it. I can understand like if you're in a playoff game, like. And you're playing center field, I don't know if you'd really want to be mic'd up. You should probably have your focus elsewhere. But
you want Joe Buck in your
anytime a player's mic'd up, I loved it. I love it. Yeah. But no, I'm all for it. And like you said, Sam, I mean they don't need it, obviously, no. But baseball seems to be so concerned about their viewership and whatnot, and they're making these stupid rules, in my opinion. Well, how about you just have people mic'd up? That'll get more people to watch. You don't got to be changing rules and making me irritated.
You don't need to change the actual game itself. Just market the game that we have.
Exactly.
And market it in the way that shows its true colors and what draws people to it in the first place.
Exactly.
You don't have to bench 300 pounds and squat 500 pounds in order to have a chance to even get in the box. Like it's a skill sport that anybody can develop those skills. They truly try to and truly work at it. And then those with the elite level intangibles are the ones that are going to make it. So
I agree 100%. And to me, that's why baseball is my favorite sport, is because you can look like Aaron Judge or you can look like Jose Altuve. I mean, obviously he's some asterisk by Jose Altuve now, but nonetheless, it doesn't matter what you look like. You can have success in any body type. It doesn't matter.
By the way, bringing up Altuve, this COVID-19, the biggest beneficiary of this is the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
I know. I was thinking that.
Yeah.
I'm like, well,
That's
they won't have anybody to boom at their ballparks anymore.
No, so this is by the time people get back to baseball, we're just gonna be happy it's back, and it's gonna be funny. It's not gonna be as maybe violent as it could have been until Trevor Bauer pitches against them. That'll be a different story. But that's what I was hoping for. I was hoping for a Reds Astros.
I love it. The Bauer outage or whatever, I love that. Personally, though, I know you guys are probably in disagreement with me, but I am never for retaliation via hit by pitch. I don't by any means back what the Houston Astros did, but I don't want to see him get plunked all year either. If you want to get back at him, just go strike him out. Go beat him. Don't beat him. That's my personal take.
Sam, what's your take on that?
On the old school baseball, we're gonna self-enforce our stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to do it that is appropriate, and
obviously
is fun.
You don't want to throw
and
heaters to the dome.
No, exactly. And I think this is where I have to be careful, because like if we're talking about the Major League Baseball stuff, that's a different animal than any other level. So if we're talking minors, if we're talking amateur ball, if we're talking, especially not in high school or college,
right?
But in amateur ball, I'd say there's really no purpose to it. I know there's guys that have done it, but I don't think there's a purpose to it. It doesn't get anything done. It doesn't solve anything. And usually all it does is fire a team up. So what's the point of doing that? Just find better ways to do it, and to enforce things you don't like. And you know what? You're all going to hang out after the game if it's amateur ball anyway. Let's not make this something that has to blow over for the whole year.
Right.
So I think when it comes to that kind of stuff, no, I don't like it at any level except for Major League Baseball, when it can be done appropriately and when guys are all on the same page with it.
Right.
And I mean, kind of to reinforce the first point, but to me, I mean, the way I feel, I just don't agree with getting even regardless. But if you hit a guy, you're just putting him on first base. You know, that's not beneficial for you. You have a guy on first base out there now, you know? Like, you're just giving them a free base. Like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah, I
think
think
up by 8 runs, it might not matter, but I ain't giving a guy first base. They got to earn that.
no. Well, like I said, I agree with you on every level except for Major League Baseball. And the only reason there's a caveat with it is because it's a 162 game season, and these guys might not have another chance to get back at that guy.
No, that's
so
true.
when it comes to the Astros, yeah, I don't want to see them getting hit all year long because that's just gonna be boring baseball games. But
there's gonna be some high on base percentages.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing them have their penance paid and then have it be done with. So now to that point, this is only going to happen. If it happens, it's only going to happen because Manfred was weak in his decision. So
yeah.
So Manfred if people are getting hit, it's Manfred's fault.
Yeah, what is Sam? What is your take on that? A lot of people thought that the punishment for the Astros wasn't enough. Some people thought is like, well, I wish you could have done more, but it's hard to really do more. Or some people thought it was perfect. What did you think about it?
That part's tough. I guess to back up the sign stealing part of it. I hate that they called it sign stealing. Because this is a step beyond that. It's using technology to cheat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's
a whole different animal.
Better way.
So, like for me, yeah, sign stealing is just sign stealing itself in the game is fine. Football coaches do it. That's why legally. They put paper over their mouths. Baseball has been doing it forever. You get to first base, you get to second base, you earn your way in there. If your catcher's sloppy and is giving his signals out at a higher level, I would say past high school, then it's fair game to steal, because they're giving it to you, and they have an opportunity to catch you in the act. They have an opportunity to react to it and to adjust, and it's all about in-game adjustments. When it comes to the technology use of it, and not having, it's just not an equal playing field, and you're creating an unequal playing field intentionally. I think that's where it crosses the line, and I think the players should have been served with suspensions, not given immunity. But with that being said, you're not going to get this information out of the players unless they were given immunity. So we got the facts, but we traded the facts to let the players play. So if in that sense, he was a man of his word, at least Manfred was, in getting the players to speak and not punishing them. But I think that the black mark that's going to be on their careers and legacies is going to be enough to keep them out of the hall down the road. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have the information.
Sure. Yeah. And I agree. You know, I'm even fine with using technology like when the game is not being played, right? So like if you're watching tape or something and you noticed, hey, you know, this sequence that he's throwing out means he's throwing a curveball or whatever, you know, and then you go to the game, and then if, like you said, if you're at first base, second base, and you see that sequence, it's like, oh, I've seen that before, let me relay it. But the fact of the matter is that they had a camera during the game, you know, with somebody at the base of the dugout doing it that way. Now that way I'm not okay with. You got to figure it out on your own and then execute it that way. That way I'm fine.
Yeah, and what's kind of what's kind of irritating, the Astros, you know, sign stealing is there's nothing wrong with it, like Sam said, unless once you get into the video and whatnot, then that's not cool. But sign stealing has always been a part of the game, and the Astros were actually good at it. They just took it too far. Like in the World Series, for instance, I believe it was Game 7 when Darvish pitched. You can't blame video because this was in LA. I mean, at least I don't know. Maybe they had a camera in LA, but anyways, they were saying Darvish got rocked that game, and they were saying he was tipping his pitches. The way he had his glove held up, whether it was, you know, tilted, whatever, they could tell whether he's pitching curveball and fastball. This had happened to Darvish in the past. The Astros were really good at doing this, but then they got greedy, and then they put the camera out there, and that's when it got really bad. But, you know, people have found pitchers' tails for a long time.
Oh,
There's nothing wrong with that. But the Astros just went to a level that they should have never gone to.
See, and I would say it's just a natural progression with technology that they would have done that. I don't necessarily find fault in them. What I find fault in them, and this is where they broke the rules, is when MLB came out and made a rule to actually get rid of, and they said that this was not allowed and that the technology could not be used. And then when they continued to do it after that, that's when, they should have suspensions or they should have, I think the AJ Hinch handling was good, but he's kind of taking a bullet for all the players because he's the one that has to serve the time for what the players were doing. I think AC will probably only get 1 year. I don't think he'll get more than that. So I guess my big thing with it is, was it wrong? Yes. Is it atrocious because there was a rule made about it? Yes. But really, it's a natural progression that was going to happen. And I think it's a lot more widespread than what's out there right now.
Yeah.
And I think there's players that have played on that team and came to other teams. So this is known by other ballparks and by other teams. And Oakland just happened to be the ones that decided to go put their player out in the media storm.
Mike Fears.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like the Twins personally, they have Marwin Gonzalez. He was on that team when they won the World Series. He was on there in 2017. And what doesn't make sense to me, all these players who are playing for the Astros are getting heat. Well, Gonzalez and I can't think of the guys off the top of my head, but there's Astros players who are no longer Astros. They're playing elsewhere, and nobody seems to care about them just because they're not wearing an Astros jersey anymore. It's like they were still a part of everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like Marwin Gonzalez is probably doing the same thing Alex Bregman is doing.
Yeah.
He's not wearing an Astros uni anymore.
And I don't see Mike Fears as being I don't see him as being a snitch or anything like that. I think he was just telling his guys like, hey, they're gonna know what I'm throwing, so we got to figure out how to combat this.
Yeah.
Well, and to be honest, even if he was, and you want to call him a snitch, I don't have any problem with that. What the Astros did, it needed to be said. Jessica Mendoza, who works for ESPN, by the way, she does a fantastic job. She was like working with the Mets and whatnot, and she was like saying how she didn't agree with how Fears went about this. It's like, well, what other way is he supposed to go?
Exactly.
Like, if you want it out in the open, that's the only way you can get it out there. And some people will say, well, you know what, Fears, you benefited from this. No, what? Just because you're not there, you're gonna let it known and get them all in trouble. Well, I personally don't have a problem with it. If he didn't say anything, the Astros would still be doing this. You wouldn't want that. So.
And I agree. It took a lot. It took a lot from Fiers to go out there and to throw himself pretty much to the dogs and be like, I'm going to take one for the team. I mean, that I cannot imagine like the mental battle that he had to go through with, should I do it? Should I not do it? And I commend him for doing it. He's getting a lot of heat, but you know what? At the end of the day, he did what was right. I mean, obviously he benefited from it, but I mean, I'm sure it's probably a guilty conscience. So.
Well, and I think one thing too is with it being a natural progression, people might ask, why not just allow it then? And I'd say that's going to make the games take 5 hours because you're going to have to signal 7 different ways for every single pitch with nobody on base.
And the catcher's going to go talk to the pitcher 5 times an inning. Then
Yeah,
they even have videos of that when teams, it seemed to be at times catching on to what the Astros were doing, and then the catcher would just constantly go talk to the pitcher, because at that point they can't even do signs. They just have to be like, yo, what do you want to pitch this next pitch? But you can't do that every pitch. So it would take forever.
How about this? How about a buzzer system between pitcher and catcher and no signs are given? I've heard that one, but then you're going to have how long it takes to get the sign, and you're going to have all this other.
Well, and plus, like, I don't know. Personally, I mean, I pitch, but I'm not a very good pitcher, and I just throw fastballs for the most part. I can tell Sam that he knows that. It's just
you've thrown me a curveball before.
It's a fast. Well, it probably didn't curve. I throw a fastball and a curveball that curves every 10th time, and a changeup that's just a slow fastball. But anyways, there'll be these pitchers. I think that the catcher has a sign where they just. I mean, some catchers just have a shake-off sign, so pitchers will sit up there and shake off for 3 times. It's just simply to mess with the batter. So, I mean, that's part of the game too. Some pitchers just like to do that to get in the batter's head. So I don't think they would even really want the buzzer system.
Sure.
But, I mean, it would work. But
well, we're going to keep going.
Do it out there.
Onto another rule that was recently brought into this offseason. A 3 batter minimum. I was going to talk about this a little bit earlier because it's going to be a perfect segue. Then we started talking about the Astros and cheating, and you got to talk about that whenever that's brought up. So that's okay. But we're talking about it now. 3-batter minimum. I think I would be okay with speaking for all of us and saying that this is probably one of the dumbest things that Major League Baseball has done in a while. And if anyone agrees with me, please, please help me out. Like, don't leave me for the dogs here.
I think everybody knows my take. That is if the 72 people who watch that one podcast, but I don't know. Sam, what do you think about it?
A 3-pitcher minimum.
Yeah.
Or 3-batter minimum. I think it's obviously if you start the inning and there's already an out in the inning and you can finish the inning, you don't have to start and pitch to the next batter in the next inning.
Right.
So I think we have to make sure people are clear on that. Like I don't have to go. The guy doesn't have to pitch 2/3 of an inning and then finish with the next inning and start the next inning with the first batter, because then that'd be the same thing of changing pitchers in the middle of the inning. They don't want that. I think it's dumb, but I understand why it's being put in place. The biggest reason I think it's dumb is because it's you're putting a lot of you're putting stress on guys' arms that may be undue, and this is the part that I'm going to this is the route I'm going to go with it, is more just the player part of it. If a player's got to go out there, a relief pitcher, and let's say your bullpen has been depleted, you're going to see a lot more players pitching if there's a 3-batter minimum, and now they're going to be forced to pitch to 3 batters, right? And it might be letting the dogs eat for a little while. So I guess I don't have a great strategic reason to get rid of it, but I think it takes a lot of strategy and flexibility away from managers. So anytime that you take strategy out of the game, you are taking away part of the game. The game is a strategic game. It's a game that's played with chess pieces. It's not checkers. So I think that's the reason why I don't like it, is really just the health of the players on back-to-back days, or the ability for a manager to manage his player's health and his arm, while also looking at you're taking away strategy. And anytime you take away strategy, you're slowly degrading what is a very strategic game.
Yes. I agree. There's multiple reasons I don't like it. Mainly the strategy, like you mentioned. The reason baseball is my favorite sport, the reason being is just the strategy involved. There can be one manager who does one thing and one who does the other thing. It doesn't necessarily mean one's wrong or one's right. There's just so many different ways of which the game can be played. And a big part of it, of a manager's job, is deciding when to take your starter out, what reliever to put in. Do you take the lefty-lefty matchup, the righty-righty? Some people don't care about that. I personally do. And what I don't like, if you have to put in a guy for 3 batters, it just totally takes away from the game. There's people who literally, their only job on a team, the only reason they're even on a baseball team, is because they're a lefty reliever to go and get a lefty out every once in a while. Bruce Bochy with the Giants used to do it with Javier Lopez all the time. He'd be like, hey, Javi, go get this lefty out. You get one out, you're out of the game. Your job's done. Well, you can't do that anymore, because you put him out there for the lefty, and then he's got two righties after, and that he's got to get out. And you just don't want that as manager. And especially in playoffs, when you have the expanded rosters and you have the pitchers capable to make a lot of pitching changes, well, now you can't do that because they have to face 3 hitters. So what it's really going to affect is postseason games. And that's what people love anyways. The reason they're doing this is to get more ratings. I believe they think it's going to add to the ratings because they want the game to not be so long. Like you said, they don't want pitching changes in the middle of the inning. Well, even the people who complain about baseball, go watch postseason baseball, and that's what it's really going to affect. Right. And if you want the game to be sped up, there's better ways of doing it than to completely change the game. And plus, if a guy has to face 3 batters, they might not be going out there and pumping 99. They might be pumping 96 instead, or they might just get tired, and then there's going to be more hits and more home runs, and the game's going to last just as long anyways because you're going to be scoring more runs. So I've almost never been against the rule more than I am against this one. I personally hate this rule.
I agree. I couldn't have said it better myself, Mr. Duckett.
I will say it might benefit the teams who have stacked bullpens and have the guys who are able to just go out there and get 3 outs all the time. But I don't know. I don't like it.
Well, the other thing to think of is with starters right now pretty much being expected to go 5, and if they go any more than that, then we're looking at it as a really good start. You're talking about really putting a tax on the bullpens, and really the one positive that could come from this rule is that we could see starters staying in the game longer.
True. Yeah, good luck.
So,
Good luck with Odorizzi making it into the 7th inning, though.
Yeah, this doesn't benefit the Twins. I'll put it that way.
The only
Yankee
pitcher
benefit.
the Twins had that could even pitch into the 7th is Barrios. Oh.
Hey, you guys won 100 games last year. You know what it would kill to be at least 500 last year? You're not that bad. Come on.
True. I guess you guys have never had a good pitcher except 1 year out of Ubaldo, so I guess I shouldn't be that upset.
Hey,
well, get a DH so you can watch some home runs fly.
That's
Yeah,
true.
there you go.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Oh, side topic, Sam. I want to hear your take. Does Coors Field and the altitude,
Oh,
how much easier does it make to hit home runs? I gotta hear it.
Well, I play on a field that the left field fence apparently is 300 feet. So it's actually not. It's longer than that. But don't get me into town ball park measurements because I'll start.
St. Peter Twitter feud.
Yeah, it was funny. That was funny. 309 was funny. We laughed at it. That got out of hand, but we laughed at it. No, I think there's obviously some science behind that where there's the higher altitude's going to create a long distance of the ball, but I think it's pretty easy to tell that skill is skill, and every team is playing in the same field. So both teams have the same advantage.
Yeah.
There you go.
The numbers are up. The numbers are up. Okay, here's the other thing. So if you want to take that route, does that mean that it's harder for Denver and the NFL because they have a higher altitude, so it's harder on them or harder on opposing teams that they have an advantage because they can breathe easier, they're used to it? I think it's just you're all playing in the same field. So as long as the field is played in the same place, we're fine.
Sam, you are welcome back to come on this podcast anytime that you want to.
Well,
anytime you want to.
Be careful though, because if a guy's numbers are inflated at home, it's hard to make a Hall of Fame vote for him if they're way down other ways. So you got to be. I'll ride that on both sides. The individual statistics may be a little inflated, but the team as a whole, their record is real.
Well, we talked about that with Larry Walker in the Hall of Fame and how people just don't give these Rockies credit because they play in altitude. But if you look at home and away splits, Walkers were better at home, but it wasn't that drastic. And I think it's reasonable to think that most people are going to be better at home, regardless of where you are, just because you're more comfortable there. Unless you play in a totally pitcher's ballpark, that's a different story. But yeah, Dorton, he's a Rocky fan. These people just don't give Rockies any credit ever. And
they don't.
They play in altitude maybe a little bit, but it's not like they're going to hit 50 just because they're hitting in Colorado.
Right. I mean, it does have a factor into it, but people are suggesting that you get out in front on a curveball and you hit it 480 feet. It's like, okay, well, calm down. That's not the case. You still get fly ball out. That does happen.
Skill is skill. Skill is skill. The wind's not blowing out at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna move on. We're gonna make some predictions now. So we're gonna start with award predictions. We're gonna do MVP, Rookie of the Year, and Cy Young. Those are probably the biggest ones. I didn't want to do obviously Gold Glove, Silver Slugger because that's gonna take all day.
Yeah, I didn't go that far.
So I didn't mention either of those. So we'll start with MVP, and I'm just gonna go how I listed you guys on my sheet of paper. So we're gonna start with Sam. Who is your AL and NL MVP this year?
AL MVP is Mike Trout again, because even the players think he's better than all of them. So every time they talk about Mike Trout, they say, "There's Mike Trout," and then there's the second tier, and I'm hoping to be in the third one. Right?
Yeah,
so they see themselves as separated. Mike Trout, as long as he's healthy. Then for the NL MVP, I think this is tough. This is between two Dodgers. It's either, in my opinion, it's either Betts or it's Bellinger.
I like that.
So I think it depends on who LA likes more and who they're trying to keep, if you get what I'm saying. So it might be Betts just to try and keep him around.
Side question: Who would you have? Who do you rather have, Bellinger or Betts? You're starting a team.
Starting a team, Belly's younger, right? I'm trying to think right now.
I think slightly, yeah.
I think it's close. Close.
I love both of them. I hate the Dodgers, but I love both those guys.
Same.
Dorton can agree with you on that too.
Yeah. So I think, well, yeah, you're a Rockies fan.
Yeah.
I think I would have to say Betts because this is tough because Betts' running game is what I was going to say for it, but Bellinger actually runs better than people give him credit for. I love watching Belly's demeanor, but Betts has won it all, so let's take Betts.
Yeah, not that it really matters. I mean, they're both okay.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I'd take Belly.
All right, Mr. Doetkott, who is your AL and NL MVP?
All right, well, my NL's kind of obvious. Well, my NL's a big name player, but AL, I'm kind of going out left field on this one. Specifically at shortstop, I'm taking Xander Bogaerts from the Red Sox.
Really? You love Xander Bogaerts.
The only problem is I don't know if the Red Sox are going to have the record for him to get the votes because that seems to matter to people. I just feel like they lost. Bogaerts had a very good year last year that wasn't really talked about because they got Betts, they got Martinez, and Sale not being Sale was getting all sorts of talk. And I just feel like they got rid of Betts. Bogaerts is kind of the dude there now. And I personally just think he's ready to explode. It's more so I just wanted to go on a limb on this one, but I truly think he's going to have a good year. And Trout's the obvious pick. Like Sam said, even the players say he's better. It's kind of like the LeBron argument. You know, for years, you could give LeBron it every year. They just didn't want to. You know, Trout could probably win it every year too. But being that he has got injured almost every year for the last 4 years, I just feel like all it's going to take is one really good year from a guy and Trout to miss a month, and they can get it over him. So I'm going to go with Bogaerts.
Can I give you a hard time on that one?
Please.
Yeah, you can.
Bogaerts isn't even the MVP of his own team.
JD Martinez?
Devers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'll be honest. I thought about Devers too. I mean, I seen Devers. He had a great year last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, he probably had a better year than Bogaerts. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little biased. I've always been a Bogaerts fan, and I like my shortstops. But
Bogaerts has been underrated the last couple of years too. So I'll give you that. I think
he's ready to explode. I'm just going with it. But National League, the one player I legitly think is right there with Mike Trout, Christian Yelich. The dude would have won it last year again, probably, but he missed that last month. And I think he's ready to prove he's the best in the National League, and I'm going with Yelich.
I can't argue that pick. That's good.
You love your Yelly, that's for sure. You love your Yelly.
A side topic. I had a fantasy draft yesterday, and it was auction league, so you get $240. I wanted Yelich so bad, but they just kept bidding, and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to spend 60-some bucks on a guy, so I had to let Yelich go over $60, and it really irritated me because I want him so bad. But I got Juan Soto for cheaper, so
I can't go wrong with that.
I'll live.
Can't go wrong with that. So I am also going to go with Mike Trout of the AL. I just think it's hard to go against him. You know, the guy's going to put up, stupid good numbers every single year. Probably the boring pick, but I'm going to go with Mike Trout for the AL. NL, I'm switching it up a little bit. I am going to go from the Atlanta Braves, Ronald Acuna Jr.
I like that.
I'm going to go with that. Maybe a little bit of a dark horse. I think 100% Betts and Bellinger, Yelich definitely are front runners. I think Acuna is definitely he's going to come out of the, not that he already has it. If you don't know Acuna, I guess watch more baseball because I don't know how you would. But nonetheless, I'm going to go with Acuna for my NL MVP. I think Atlanta is going to have a big season this year, and he's going to be a huge part of it.
I do too. We'll get to that later. I just like to say Acuna Jr. and Soto being both in the National League East. I think as long as they both, I think Acuna is signed. I can't remember Soto, but I think they're going to be big rivals for the next decade, and I think they might be the best two players in baseball before we know it. They're both really good. Question for both of you, since you both took Trout, which obviously, I can't argue that pick. With Anthony Rendon now being there, do you think that is going to help Trout's numbers out? Because they might not be able to walk him so much now. I don't know if they plan on putting Rendon before him, after him, or what. But Rendon being there, I mean, is that going to make his numbers even better?
Yeah.
Should.
Yeah.
I think so. I think so.
You would think, looking at how you would structure a lineup, no matter if you put him before or after him, that his numbers would be better. But Mike Trout's numbers are also going to be better because Mike Trout is a workhorse and is consistently getting better. So
personally,
I think
I'd take the LA Dodgers duo though, because I think Trout and Renault might be better slightly. I'm not sure, but Bellinger and Betts, to put lefty righty like that, that's just not even fair to a pitching staff, and that would be lovely. I'm guessing they're going to bat back to back, and the fact that one's a lefty and one's a righty is just, ooh, that's scary. It's like Fielder
especially with
like 7 years ago.
Especially with that pitcher, that three batter minimum, and then
Yes.
well, just not to project too soon with my teams that I've got, but I don't have the Angels getting into the playoffs, so that'll tell you what I think is going to happen. I think Rendon and Trout are going to be the only two players on that team that have a great offensive year. And then when we look at maybe Ohtani, but when we look at the Acuna pick, there's a reason the Braves didn't have to go out and have any free agent splash signings.
Right.
There's a reason for it. The team's
Right.
good.
Yeah.
And plus, they did go get Ozuna too, which I think people don't even, hardly even knew that, but they got Ozuna now too. But yeah, Acuna Jr., I could definitely see him getting it. I like that pick, good.
So we're going to do Rookie of the Year now. So again, Sam, we'll start with you. We'll go with AL and then NL Rookie of the Year for you.
All right. Well, to be fair with you, I'm not as caught up on the NL side for this one, but I'm going to go on a branch here, and I'm going to say Royce Lewis is the AL Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
I think this is the year. I think this is the year.
I hope you're right.
That's a far out pick. It's not. There's no projection behind it. It's basically me saying Twins, put him on the playing field. I saw him absolutely demolish a ball in spring training. So I love his swing. His swing is so connected. It's beautiful.
Sorry, I'm interrupting here, but yes, personally, I think it's unlikely just because the Twins don't call up their guys when they should. But like you said, you're pretty much saying this just because you're saying Twins, put them on the field. I can't agree more. I've had so many rants about the Twins for years about how they don't call guys up in time. And sure, some people think you shouldn't, but to me, like we just talked about Juan Soto. He was 19 when he got called up. He darn near could have got World Series MVP last year when he turned 21 during the World Series. Like, just call the guys up. If they're as good as they're supposed to be, they can hit now. And the Twins just wait. So I hope you're right and Lewis gets called up, but we'll see. I think Kirilov's probably going to be up before Lewis.
That would be my absolute dream.
Mine too.
All right, Mr. Duckett, who do you got?
I have Jesus Luzardo for the A's.
Okay.
The only question is, it's got to be if he's a starter. If he's relieving for too long, he's not going to get it. But I think their intent is to move him to a starter pretty soon. And he was really, really good in the limited time he's had, but he's had injury problems. But the dude has flamethrower stuff. He's really good. And I personally think the Oakland A's are going to be really good this year. So Luzardo's my pick. And the one in the National League's probably a little obvious, but it's Gavin Lux. I think that's who everybody's going to take. But the Dodgers have had a Rookie of the Year like every year, it seems like. So they're probably going to have another one at second base this year. That's my pick.
Yeah. For me, AL, I'm going to go with Luis Robert from the Chicago White Sox. Has been a top prospect in baseball for a little bit now.
He's probably the favorite.
And I think he's a favorite. I think this is the year that they could give him time, give him playing time. And I can't imagine he's going to bust it all. Now, granted, it's hard to tell with minor league prospects when they go to Major League Baseball. We see it all the time. I don't think he'll miss. The White Sox are such a young team, really good developmental team as of lately. Not so much in the past, but as of lately, they've been developing players very well. Mm-hmm. So I think he'll do pretty solid. And then for the NL, I have Lux as well, too. Again, kind of the front runner. Dustin May, though, watch out for him from another guy from the Dodgers, a pitcher, red hair, he's got the flow. He can pitch with the best of them. So potentially him, but I'm going to go with Gavin Lux for me.
Sounds good. Yeah, it seems like the Dodgers always get a Rookie of the Year. I don't know if it's just they get lucky or they got a good development system or what, but they always have a Rookie of the Year.
So we're going to go to Cy Young now. Sam, we'll start with you on this one again. Who's your Cy Young winners?
All right, my Cy Young winners are going to be in the NL. Start there with the NL. It's going to be Alex Wood of the Dodgers.
Ooh.
Oh.
Wow, I didn't see that.
And then in the AL, I'm going to go with this is where it's tough. Tough for the NL. I like the dark horse in the NL. The NL never has it's always somebody new. I know Scherzer's probably the hot pick, but I don't think the Nats are going to have the season they had last year. So for the AL, I'm going to go with Severino was my original pick, and then he got hurt.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to go with I'm not taking Garrett Cole, but we'll take Justin Verlander. It's his turn this time.
Okay. I like that.
Well, see, Verlander just had that injury where he was debatable for opening day. I don't think it was anything serious, but now with the whole coronavirus thing, he'll be good to go whenever they start up. So.
Like I said, the Astros benefited more than anybody else.
Right.
Nick, who do you
want to go next or me?
You.
So, if Sam's right and Alex Wood's going to be a stud this year, then look out for the Dodgers because my Cy Young pick is also a Dodger, but it's not Wood. I have Walker Buehler as my Cy Young.
Okay.
I think Kershaw time in Dodgers. I mean, Kershaw's still going to be good, but I don't know if he's even the second or third best pitcher on that team anymore. Walker Buehler is an absolute stud. And I think the Dodgers are just going to win so many games. They have such a good offense. He's going to get so many wins, and he's going to get the votes. Personally, it's hard not to take DeGrom, though, because the guy's a stud, and I really like DeGrom. But taking Buehler. And I will take Garrett Cole, Sam, because that's the last guy I'd want to face if I were Major League. And that dude, man. So I'm taking Garrett Cole.
He lost his analytics department.
He did give up back-to-back home runs twice against the Tigers this spring, so who knows? Maybe he's not as good.
I'd be lying if I wasn't a little concerned about him leaving Houston, because there's 2 or 3 teams in baseball where like you go there and your pitchers all of a sudden do better. The Astros and the Rays are the big ones that come to mind. Like they acquire a pitcher and they just like save their career, it seems like. And now he's leaving there, but the dude's got nasty stuff. I think he'll be good enough. I mean, I don't think it should be that big of a difference. And New York's obviously a good organization too, so I'll take the obvious one.
Yep. So for me, I'm going to start in the National League. I'm going to go with Jack Flaherty of the St. Louis Cardinals. I think he's going to have a huge year, pitched very well last year, and I think he's going to ball out again for St. Louis. For the AL, I'm going a little bit of a different approach, kind of a dark horse candidate. Nick, I know we've talked about this team a lot for how much they develop pitching, and that is Tyler Glasnow is going to be winning the Cy Young for the Tampa Bay Rays. He was hurt a little bit last year, but when he pitched, he was hard to hit.
Yes.
So I'm going to throw him out there. If he has a full healthy year, Tampa's probably, I could see them making another playoff appearance again. So I'm going to go with Tyler Glasnow for my AL Cy Young award.
That makes sense because you took him like third or fourth round last week. So
Yep.
But Glasnow is the Cy Young. Granted, it's only like a month and a half. But the first month and a half of last year, Glasnow was the Cy Young, and Flaherty would have been the Cy Young in the second half. So those are both good picks. But mine are going to be right. Just say no.
I will say this: his Knicks are better set for future success. If you're a gambling man, you're probably you have the lowest odds. I would say that my Alex Wood pick is way out of left field, but it's because he's coming off an injury-riddled season. He's got a really good organization, and he's a lot better pitcher than people remember. So,
for instance, I mean, I don't know how much of a similarity it is, but Rich Hill, I know he's quite older, but Rich Hill had a year a while back with the Dodgers that honestly was, Cy Young, potentially Cy Young numbers. And the Dodgers have had a history with getting good pitchers, and Alex Wood's a much better pitcher than people think. I agree with you on that.
So he's probably not winning the Cy Young, but he's going to be my pick for right now.
I like it.
Give him attention.
Now we're going to go into playoff predictions. So it's going to be kind of longer, but this is how I'm going to kind of do it, as I'll go AL for each team. I guess we'll start with the wild card for the AL and then move to the wild card to the NL, and then, get the division winners and stuff like that. So we'll start, Nick, with you on this one. AL, who do you have in your wild card?
My wild card?
Yep.
So I'll be honest, the first time I went through my predictions, I had pretty much the same people making the playoffs as I did last year in the AL. And I kind of looked it over and switched up a bit. But my 2 wild card teams are Houston and Tampa Bay. Yes, I have Houston as a wild card. And I have Tampa Bay beating them.
Okay. Okay, I like that. That's bold. That is bold.
So that wild card game would potentially, if that would happen, it would probably be Glasgow versus Verlander. So that would be interesting.
Sam, we'll go to you. Who do you have for your wild card matchup in the AL?
I really want to put the White Sox into the wild card game. I really do because of how weak the division's going to be outside of the Twins.
Yeah.
I think the White Sox have a good chance of making it to the wild card game, but for the purposes of the other three teams that I would see them possibly being able to chase down, I don't think they can. I don't think they're there yet. So I'm going to have the A's and Rays in the wild card game. I was actually really tempted to go A's Yankees here because I think the Rays might be within 3 games. But A's and Rays in the wild card game, and the Rays will win that one to my dismay.
That would be the same as last year. Yes.
Yep.
I agree with you guys on one of the teams, the one that you both have talked about is winning. I don't know if I have them winning. I got to think about it, so I'm going to keep talking and get to it. But I have Tampa Bay in there. And then I also have – this is a team that no matter what the injuries are like, no matter what's going on, they win ball games. And that is the Cleveland Indians. They always find a way to win. I mean, you talk about last year. Everyone's talking about losing Corey Kluber. They're not going to be as good. Don't get me wrong. You have Corey Kluber on your team. It makes you a heck of a lot better. But he pitched, less than 10 games last year, and they won 90-some games again. So I'm going to go with Cleveland for that. And I think I'm going to go with Tampa Bay also winning. Tampa Bay is my AL team. Love Tampa. So I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Rays as the winner there.
So if you have Cleveland getting in this game, then Lindor is an MVP. That's what it's going to take.
I think, I definitely, which he can. He's very much capable of doing that.
For sure.
It could be one of those things where they don't want to give it to Trout, so they just give it to somebody else. I think Lindor could potentially be that guy. But I think Lindor, he could very well have an MVP type season.
I mean, I guess what I'd say about your Cleveland pick, I mean, maybe Sam and I are just naturally more down on them because, we're Twins fans there in our division, but I do have them winning 92 games. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I don't think they have enough hitting. You'd be a fool to completely count them out because, they lose pitcher after pitcher. It seems like they go find a guy at the street and they're good. Aaron Savali, even Plutko a little bit last year. Shane Bieber and Clevenger are pretty much their aces now instead of Kluber, Bauer, Carrasco, Salazar. I just don't think they have enough hitting. Like Sam said, if they make it, there's a good chance Lindor, is just an absolute beast this year. Or Ramirez is going to have to return back to the form he was last year. But, I mean, they'll be in the hunt with their pitching, as will the White Sox. I just don't think they have enough pitching, White Sox.
Sure. So we will move to the NL now, go to some NL wild card picks. Sam, we'll start with you on this one. Who do you have for your NL wild card?
Well, here's where it gets really muddled because the NL East is the NL East is a spark that they might actually beat up on each other and keep themselves out of the wild card game. So I've got the NL Central with 2 teams in the wild card game, and they are the Cardinals and the Reds.
Okay,
not the Cubs.
I as well am not very high in the Cubs.
Nick, who do you have?
I thought about that same thing with the NL East, like Sam said. There's a lot of, besides Miami, all those teams are, playoff, if not World Series caliber teams, and they'll probably beat up on each other. I do think they're going to squeeze 2 playoff teams in, though. I have Washington getting a wild card, and I have St. Louis getting a wild card. And I have St. Louis beating Washington in the wild card game.
Okay. And Sam, who did you have winning that matchup, St. Louis and the Reds? Maybe I missed it.
Trevor Bauer, baby.
Okay.
The Reds. And
I like
the Reds this year. I think them
too.
and the White Sox might be a year out, but I'm
I
more
agree
confident
with
the Reds
you,
than I am the White Sox.
See, they're
I would
both
love
a year.
to see the Reds make it.
This is why I wanted to put the White Sox in the wild card because I think they're maybe a year out, which would be wild card hopefuls this year. I think they're probably 2 years out from being really good and being a true challenge for the Twins.
Yeah.
But the Reds, on the other hand, I think will benefit from being in the NL and in the NL Central.
That is a good point. Pittsburgh's going to be awful, and I don't think the Cubs are going to be much this year. So.
Yep. Yeah. If they're all if Brewers, Cardinals, and Reds are all 500 against each other, then they just have to beat up on everybody else that play.
Yep. Good point. So who you got, Dorton?
Yep. So for my NL wildcard team, I have Washington. I think they'll squeak in again. I have them going. I think a lot of people are really sleeping on this team this year. And if anyone listened to that Arizona Diamondbacks podcast I did with Kevin Harris, Arizona, I think they had a sneaky, really good season last year, and not a lot of people saw it. I think Arizona is going to sneak into that wild card spot from the NL West.
That's a good pick. That's probably a better pick than my Reds.
I like the Red run. That's a great pick. I think it could have a really solid chance this year.
So who do you have winning that one?
I have. See, that's tough. I would like. See, I don't mind Arizona much. They are rivals with the Rockies, but I don't have true beef with them. I don't think they're going to have enough to get past the wild card. I just think the pitching at the Washington. I mean, you throw out Scherzer, Strasburg, one or the other, it's going to be hard to beat them. So I'm going to go with Washington.
Here's the thing, though. I think Arizona's going to have like 85 wins. I don't think they're going to make it. But if they can make the wild card game, they have Madison Bumgarner, who is like the best playoff pitcher like darn near ever. So if they give him that wild card game, there's a good chance they could win that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like I said, I don't have them in the playoffs, but I do think they'll be good. But to Sam's point about the NL East and everybody beating up on each other, well, the NL West is kind of the opposite. The Dodgers are amazing, but besides that, San Diego, Colorado, San Fran, sorry, Dorton, but they're probably not going to be that great. So Arizona should be able to rack up quite a bit of wins there and could definitely get in. So I don't mind that pick either.
Don't worry,
the Rockies race should be tight, I think.
The Rockies are not even going to come close to a 500 team this year. So no need to.
I have them getting 72 wins.
Well, that's generous. That's generous. I'll take it.
Yeah, 72.
So now we will move on to the AL. I guess the number one seed. So that would be the team that the wild card team, wherever they won, would be playing. I guess I will start with this one. I think the New York Yankees are going to be the number one seed. As much as I hate to say it, trust me, I hate the Yankees just as much as the next guy. And I'm not even in the same conference. But
dude, we've lost like 14 playoff games in a row to them. So just try to be a Twins fan.
So I have the Yankees playing Tampa Bay, and I just think Garrett Cole, that was, pretty much the only thing they did this offseason. But granted, you don't need to do a whole lot more. Obviously, losing Severino is going to be tough. He was hurt a little bit last year, but I just think the Yankees are really going to be pushing hard this year. Not that they aren't every year. I had the Yankees as my one seed.
This whole delay to the season is going to help them out because Stanton and Judge are both banged up. It's going to give them time to be.
So, Sam, I'll go to you on this one. Who do you have as your number one seed playing Tampa Bay?
I have the Yankees as well, but these injuries are going to haunt them in the postseason, and the Rays are going to beat the Yankees in the playoffs when it matters.
I like that. I'm a huge fan of that. Nick, who do you have?
I don't have the Yankees as the one. I have the Yankees as the division winner, but I'm just going to say, just being that you both took the Yankees, I'm going to touch this. I had the Yankees winning their division by one game. I had Tampa Bay beating them. But then, I looked at the record I had put down for New York compared to last year, and I'm like, they added Garrett Cole, and I have them dropping 7 wins. That's just, I can't see it. So I did put them ahead of Tampa. But my one seed is actually the team I'm probably more high on than anybody this year. Compared to what most people would have. I have the Oakland Athletics winning 99 games and being the number one seed in the American League.
Okay.
Like I said, Jesus Luzardo, I am getting Rookie of the Year. I think Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea and all those starters there, I think they're going to be the best starting rotation in the American League, and I think they're going to get the number one seed.
So then you have Tampa Bay playing Oakland. Who do you have winning that matchup?
I have Oakland in 5.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I like the Oakland pick. I feel how they are. That's kind of how Arizona is. They're a good team. I don't think a lot of people realize truly how good of a team Oakland is. I think they're going to surprise some folks. I didn't have them in the playoffs, obviously, but I would not be surprised if they do make the playoffs. And
they won 97 games or something like that last year. You just didn't know it because Houston won so many.
Right. Right. So yeah, I had obviously, yeah, I didn't make my prediction who's going to win. But I have the New York Yankees winning that series. I I want to pick Tampa so bad. I truly would love to pick Tampa. I just think it's going to be tough. I think as injury prone as Stanton has been so far with the Yankees, I would not be surprised if he is still injured again come postseason time.
Mhm.
But they're just the Yankees are such a good team, and it's hard to go against them. Like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I truly want. I don't even want the Yankees to make the playoffs, but that ain't gonna happen. So we'll
Unfortunately.
move on from that. Sam, we'll start with you now in the National League. Who do you have as your number one team going up against Cincinnati?
It's the Dodgers, and they're
Yeah.
going to win, and they're probably going to win it in 4 games.
I was gonna say I challenge any of you not to take the Dodgers.
Yeah. Well, I already know now who Nick is picking. I also have the Dodgers too. It's just I mean it's so hard to pick against them. With now getting Mookie Betts, really has not given up much this offseason. It's hard
Plus,
to go
their
against them.
division sucks. The division's terrible.
Outside of Arizona, yeah, the division is not very good. San Diego tries to get a big name guy every year, but they just don't do it.
I have them winning 112 games. Like,
holy crap!
Sam and I both have them getting the Cy Young. You and I both have them getting the Rookie of the Year. Sam has them getting the MVP. I mean, they're just loaded everywhere. So, yeah, they're getting the 1 seed.
So then, do you have LA beating St. Louis then, Nick?
Yes, I do. St. Louis will beat them 1 time though. LA, it'll be in 4, I think.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So I also have the Dodgers. No surprise there. Again, much with the Yankees. I don't want them to have success, but they're going to, regardless of how I feel. So the Dodgers I have going up against the Nationals. I think that could be a solid series, but I think at the end of the day, the Dodgers offensive side of things, they say pitching beats good hitting, but outside of Strasburg and Scherzer, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to get consistent pitching, and I'm going to have LA winning that series against the Nationals. So now we will move on to our other divisional round games. So we'll start in the American League. Nick, we'll start with you on this one. Who do you have as your 2 other division winners going up against each other?
This truly hurts me to say this, but I got the Yankees and the Twins yet again. To be honest, I'd make base predictions every year. I just pick who I think's going to win the division, and then I go through and do records. And then I looked at it, I'm like, great. I have New York being the 2 and Minnesota being the 3, which means they'll face each other again. I have the Twins winning 1 game this year because they cannot lose 19 in a row.
Hey, there you go.
But I have the Yankees beating us in 4.
Sam, yeah, I can sense the pain in your voice. I would not want that to happen either, but I think it's probably how it's going to go. Sam, who do you have as your division winners going up against each other in the AL?
Well, with the Yankees as the 1 seed, that puts the Astros as the winner of the West, since the A's are my wild card.
Yeah.
And the Twins will be the 3 seed. Astros will be the 2 seed, and the Twins will beat them in 6 games.
The Twins have a much better shot against Houston than they do New York, I think. So.
Okay.
Not 6 games. Sorry, not 6 games. 4 games.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I also, Sam, I agree with you. I have Cleveland being my wild card team for the AL Central, but for the division winners, I think it's going to be Minnesota and Houston as well too. It's going to be tough this year. Houston's going to have a lot of adversity to try and climb through. At the end of the day, and I don't want to talk about this again, but it is so frustrating to look back at the 2017 Astros team, is that they could have won without the cheating. The team is just so good. I mean, they're just so good. And obviously losing Garrett Cole doesn't help them. But Verlander is going to have a huge year. They have a great bullpen. Their offense is phenomenal as usual. I would like the Twins to win, but I'm going to go with Houston winning that matchup there. I think it's going to be a good series. I could really see it coming down coming down to the wire, but I think at the end of the day, I think Houston's going to win that.
The Twins have possibly the best lineup. Honestly, and I'm not saying they have the best lineup in baseball, but you could argue it. They have a better lineup to beat anybody anywhere. I just can't pick up. They ended up playing the Yankees, and in my predictions, I just can't pick them to beat them. I wish I could, but
I like the way the Twins match up against Justin Verlander and Zach Greinke. So
I really hope you're right, Sam. You definitely could be. The Twins are not going to be an easy out.
I want you to be right. I really do.
I know that Twins appeared as an easy out last year, but let's face it, I'm not saying they're going to be better record-wise, but they're a better team than they were last year roster-wise. So.
Well, you're not to give you too much here, but if the Twins don't win this series, my whole playoff bracket's screwed still.
I kind of had a hint.
All right, so we'll go to the National League now. Sam, we'll start with you on this one. Who do you have as your other NL playoff teams?
My 2 seed is the Atlanta Braves, and my 3 seed is the Milwaukee Brewers. And the Braves will beat the Brewers in a 5-game series coming down to the wire.
Okay.
Oh my God!
The Braves will hit Acuna Jr. might be the one that does. It's going to hit a walk-off homer onto the slide at Brewer Park, at Miller Park.
Dorton, I'm just going to go next because I have the same exact thing. I have Atlanta being a 2, Milwaukee being a 3. I actually have Atlanta winning 100 games this year, but being the 2 because the Dodgers. And I have Atlanta winning in 5 games over Milwaukee. It's going to be Yelich versus Acuna Jr. I have Yelich getting MVP, but I think Acuna's got a little bit more better supporting staff. So I'm going with Atlanta, just like Sam did. Uh-oh.
Did he freeze on us?
I think so.
Well, I think my wife wants some help with bedtime.
Yeah.
So can I give you my last few picks here, and I got to hit the road? Is that going to be okay?
No problem. Yeah.
All right. So I've got the Twins over the Rays.
Okay.
To get to the World Series. And the reason why the Twins can get to the World Series is because they don't have to play the Yankees at any point in the postseason because the Rays will take the Yankees out.
Yeah.
And then the Braves are going to beat the Dodgers. And that's going to be a 7-game series. And then we're going to have a repeat of 1991. Twins beat the Braves in 7.
Sweet. I'm down.
That's what I've got.
Like I said, if we can avoid
it's
New
totally
York,
homer. It's totally being a homer. But
no, in a way. But if we can avoid New York, I can totally see it. I just don't think we're going to beat New York. But yeah, if we can, if it goes how you have it, I could totally see that. And Atlanta's really good. I have the Dodgers in the World Series, but Atlanta's really good. I could see that.
So that's just my. I was trying to have some fun with it a little bit, and I'm like, how do I make? So at first I was going to have the Rays win the division, and then I realized that meant Twins Yankees, and I went, nope, don't want that.